Yes, it's okay. Fine.
Yes, so the title of the presentation was How National Teams Prepare for WOC. I chose this picture as on the front slide. It's been taken less than 24 hours after the great last competition of the World Cup 2021 in Cortina d'Ampezzo. We stayed 3 more days in the Italian Alps, Dolomites, with the team to get a picture of the terrain, the altitude, etc., that will face us in 2023 in Switzerland, and we found some, in my opinion, fairly or very relevant terrains up there. This picture is from 2,200 meters. So we started our preparation less than 24 hours after the last World Cup competition, 2 years before the next forest WOC. This is the big picture. I think there are 5 different steps or phases of the preparation described on the left. I will come back to those in each slide. Many things that we have to think about when preparing for the WOC: training camps, home training, competitions, both in Norway and also, of course, in the World Champs host country, or trying to find similar areas in other countries. All preparations when it comes to travel, accommodation, etc. Coaching, of course, and then using experts as a help for certain issues. And the 3 main aspects are described here on the right-hand side: orienteering technique, physical aspects, and the logistics and accommodation, food, etc. So these are the things we are considering when planning the preparations for the next WOC, or not just the next one, but usually 2, maybe sometimes 3 at the same time. So these would be the first steps taken approximately 2 years before the WOC. As I said, there is 1 WOC in between also. As the bulletin 1 comes out, then it gives us the first information. Also, usually the old maps are found in Eventor, and then we go through the previous experiences of the athletes and coaches when it comes to the challenges that we are going to face in the WOC. Trying to create the big picture: where are the competitions, when are they, what kind of competitions they are. We try to make a visit, if necessary, about 2 years in advance, first visit. Now I'm mostly talking about WOC 23 here, partly WOC 22. I have lived in Switzerland 4 years altogether, and I've been around in Flims and St. Moritz, Davos, etc., in many of those places. So there was no need for a visit because I know the surroundings fairly well. The first training camp, if it's done 2 years in advance or 1.5, what we did, for example, for Czechia, of course, I only started 8 months before the World Champs. We did measure their running speeds in different parts of the terrain with route choices and think about the physical and environmental demands. So that are the first steps, sometimes done 2 years in advance, sometimes a bit later. So actually our first WOC 23 training camp will be held in August, so it is only 11 months before the WOC where we will do these things. And the goal is during their first year of the preparation is to understand the most important issues described on the right-hand side. And then we create the first inputs for the home training. So this is the kick-off, so to say, for the more time-consuming and work-consuming phase, which is the previous year before the WOC. Of course, training camps are very important. Usually 2 or 3 camps with the national team. Here it must be stated that when it comes to sprint WOC, a bit less training camps are needed because sprint is relatively similar in different parts of the world. So sprint WOC needs a little bit less local preparation at the WOC host country than forest. Quite a few athletes are doing their individual camps. Kasper Fosser, for example, before the WOC last year, he spent around 3-4 extra weeks in addition to the national team program in Czech Republic to get as good picture of the terrain and as much training in the terrain as possible. One important issue is also to check the WOC surroundings to get a picture about the accommodation possibilities, logistics, and so on. In an optimal case, we would, as we did for Denmark, for example, this year, we booked the accommodation in our training camp in October last year. Hopefully there will be some competitions. Usually there are. Quite often 2 years in advance Euro meeting is held, not there always. And then a year before the WOC World Cup races. So they usually give the best picture of both the terrain, organization and course setting. And of course, about a year before the next WOC, we planned the program. I started planning the program of 2022 right after the WOC last year, when I was in quarantine due to my COVID illness. So I was using my so-called summer vacation to plan the next year's program. And there are, of course, different issues there. For Switzerland, one important question is whether altitude training is needed, for example. And then we come to the WOC year. Bulletin 2 and 3 are very important. The plans are getting more precise, and the idea of what the competitions will be like and where they will be held is more precise. If we think about Denmark, for example, this year, we will have a training camp in April, another one together with the WOC selection races in May. But as the program in June is quite tight, we also have to have selection races for European champs, which are quite soon after WOC this year. Then we decided not to travel to Denmark again in June. But if this would be a forest WOC, then we would definitely travel one more time. So it would make 3 camps, and that's what we did last year for Czech Republic. 3 camps, selection races, and WOC. So we were during the last 3 months before WOC, we were there altogether 4 times, including the WOC, and with about 30 training days with the national team but some athletes as mentioned were there almost 50 days. The preparation will get more and more, and the training will get more and more WOC specific. Last year, for example, lots of steep uphills, steep downhills, etc. Pre-WOC competitions, we are of course hoping for national competitions in the host country. Last year we had a possibility around Easter, and then the WOC selection races were held also in Czech Republic, and that's more or less what we hope for this year, and will be happening this year too, and of course next year in Switzerland. And then during this phase in the spring, we will do the final plans for the most important weeks, which is more or less the last month after that the team selection has been made. What we do there, of course, quite individual plans. We don't. I mean, we respect highly the individual thoughts of each athlete's training and preparation. Short-term preparation the last month. Usually selection races 4 to 6 weeks before WOC. This year they will be held quite early. I think it's nearly 7 weeks before the WOC starts. But we don't select the team after the races in Denmark. We will make the selections after the World Cup races in Sweden, which is more or less 4 weeks before WOC. Relay teams sometimes decided right there and right then, sometimes a bit later. Last training camp this year we will have it in Norway. We are doing the short version of WOC program because, as I mentioned, there are lots of competitions and the WOC is very early, which is hopefully not the case in the next few years, only 5-6 days before Jukola, for example. So hopefully it will be rather around the 10th of July, the start of WOC in the future. And then we will use the WOC accommodation if possible. One very important issue here, it will be done during the last year or a year and a half to make some model courses. Sometimes there are no old maps of the competition terrain, but with today's technique, I guess all the bigger teams at least are creating their own maps to get even a better picture of what's coming and do some calculations of the possible route choices, etc. And then we finalize all the details when it comes to the WOC week here. And the athletes are training very much individually during the last month, except of the WOC camp that we organize 2-3 weeks before the WOC. Fine-tuning, last few days, Bhutan 4 usually comes a few days before the WOC starts, sometimes 3 days, sometimes 6 or 7. Last informations, knowing where the start point is, and so on and so on. You can see the map on the right-hand side, which is my plan. This was done already around the Easter on the old map, which looks quite different to the actual WOC map. Model events, we usually organize 1 or 2 fast trainings, arriving to the WOC accommodation 4 or 5 days before the competition starts, for the athletes to get the last chance in the as relevant terrain, as we try to create as relevant courses, shorter of course than the WOC. and then individual coaching according to the athlete's needs. And the very important issue here is to create positive team spirit, naturally. Yes, and then one more issue, WOC 23 and altitude training. We know that Flims lies at around 1100 meters, but at the moment we don't know yet where exactly the competitions will be held. So we must expect that a large part of the long distance terrain, for example, could be competed in the mid-high altitude. But what is even more important for us is that most of the training areas that are relevant to the WOC are located quite high, and especially accommodations. For example, Arosa, Davos, St. Moritz, just to mention a few of them. So we have to, not many orienteers have much experience of my computer seems to be doing something strange here. Of staying in the high altitude training, competing in the high altitude. So this autumn we will be in the altitude altogether about 3 weeks, including the World Cup in Davos. So it's an important issue, not just for the WOC but also for the training camps. If some athletes have a hard time in training in the altitude, living in the altitude, then we have to know it before next year. So it's important for the teams as early as possible in 2022 to get information of the competition and training areas and training terrains of the WOC, to understand the technical and physical challenges, planning of the training camps, etc., etc. So only then we can start planning exactly where we will have, for example, the training camps of this autumn and most of all next year, and also to put together the individual plans. Maybe some athletes will need more time in the altitude, also in the winter time, to be able to train as well as possible in the spring before the WOC, and also to be best prepared for the WOC itself. Just shortly, our program for this year. There are camps, competitions, less important competitions, and so on this calendar. Altogether, for WOC 22, we will have 30 days approximately together with the national team, running 10 to 12 competitions. And for WOC 23 this year, we will use about 20 days and hopefully run 6 to 7 competitions. So for next, when it comes to 2023 plans, so I think we will be in Switzerland maybe a month's time again, as in Czech Republic is the last year. Thank you very much.